Spanish Inquisition. It's head first only television.
Well, that's a good start, isn't it? Hang on. It's all gone terribly wrong. Bear with me a second and I will restart OBS, which has got very confused. Shall we try that again? Oh, these things are giving me a headache. Oh. Good evening. So, I've lost one camera. I'm not entirely sure why. And my main camera wasn't playing ball, and when I tried the audio I was getting howling feedback, so chaos. Here we go then. Cosplay Chris. So the complete works, complete with industrial weight handling gloves. Forever Motion says audio is a bit weird. Sounds like it's not coming from your main mic, but you look great. Thank you, sir. My tripod cam has disappeared. It's currently showing me a red light. I suppose I could always switch it off and switch it on again. So let's. Ah. Oh, look. I think we've found the problem.
Hello, hello, hello. It looks like we have sound. I think I've sussed it. So, oh, look, that one's come back. So, what the heck's going on here is anybody's guess. Hello, De French Toast. Yes, it's... that costume is a little bit warmer than I thought it was going to be. So I'm rehydrating at the moment. Hello again, Ryako Music. Hello, Array of Emotions. So what had happened, as it turns out, if I show you my my setting, forget the strange whirlpool of death spiral in the middle. It's the Zoom Q8 audio input, which should be set to microphone Q8 webcam audio, which it had been for the last 3 months, had suddenly reset itself to default. And that's thrown everything else. I was going to talk this evening about how clever I've been in setting up OBS using scenes and embedded scenes within OBS, because that means that if you, for example, change camera, then all you need to do is fix the camera in the one scene where you've actually embedded it, and then all those changes roll out into any of the other scenes that you have nested inside scenes. Of course, what that also means is if the original scene that depends on the audio for the entire broadcast gets screwed up, then everything dies. So that's what had happened. So the dreaded curse has struck again, says Ryako Music, and you are not wrong. I shouldn't have had that martini. I think that is safe to say. And why is Chris drinking martinis on a Thursday evening, you are asking yourselves? Well, Ruth bought me a bottle of Jaffa Cake gin for my birthday. And I've been doing a bit of research this week about what was the best tonic to have with Jaffa Cake gin. Ryako Music says, yeah, you should have had 20 more. I think I will probably be having another one after we've finished tonight. So I went online and had a look about this Jaffa Cake gin, which, honest to God, is made with Jaffa Cakes. So it's chocolatey and it's orangey. And the basic verdict seems to be that it is possibly the best gin on the planet for making Negronis. What's a Negroni, I hear you ask? Well, it's 1 part gin, 1 part vermouth, and 1 part Campari. And I haven't got any Campari. My bottle of vermouth is of an indeterminate age, but hadn't actually been opened. So, of course, before I go off buying Campari to start making myself Negronis for my evening cocktail after dinner, I thought, well, I'd better do a quality test on the vermouth because it might have expired. So I had a martini with it. And it hasn't expired at all. It tastes lovely. And in fact, I think I may well have developed a bit of a taste for a decent gin-based martini. But I need some olives. So I'm going to go to the supermarket tomorrow and buy Campari for the Negronis and olives and maybe just sort of staple food type stuff as well. Robbie says, I went through a vermouth phase in the summer. I love it, says Ryako Music. Array of Emotion says, fancy. Yeah, you can't beat a decent martini, but Mr. Bond is incorrect. And you would think that a 00 secret agent who has been known to kill somebody for ordering red wine with the fish course would know that one does not shake a martini, one stirs a martini. And Ryako Music says, stirred is better. Absolutely it is. So you don't bruise the drink, apparently. But I'm on the lemon squash at the moment. So after the curse struck again, and we've wasted some 30 odd minutes getting back on air, and I was nearly melting, so I'm now out of the cosplay because goodness me, that jumpsuit's warm. Ryako Music says shaking leaves ice chips, which dissolves in the drink and waters it down, and you don't want a watery martini. Trust me on this. But I do need an olive. So yeah, Ryako Music says this was funny. Yeah, not in any way as professional as your stream over the last few weeks. I really enjoyed yesterday. So for those who don't know, Ryako Music scores Metropolis, which is a 1927 silent movie by the German director Fritz Lang. It's one of the finest and greatest science fiction movies ever made, and Mel is doing a stream of scoring it, and what have you got, Mel? About 15 minutes left to do. I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, tonight there will be a bit of music, but believe me, I would love to play the 3 complete pieces of music running in at about quarter of an hour that I've done in the last 2 days in here, because this studio, I am just chuffed to bits with how it's turned out. It is such a difference compared with how the old place was, and hooray for no head injuries. Although you may have noticed, I think I'm probably going to have to get some of the old pancake and slap that on the head, because there is a bit of a glare. Be honest, there is quite a bit of a glare on this. Wobby said, yeah, I did notice the glare, with a huge grin and lots of love. Yes. Oh, I was just paid with that. You look like you've got half a head. Yeah, it's so if I go back to and they've switched round as well, which is that is seriously glad. And you can also see that wall behind me is in serious need of replastering. So let's maybe choose another camera angle for that one next week, huh? And forget you saw all that. So yeah, I've been busy. I've done 3 cover versions for Rocktober, which, as you guys all know, because you're all part of it, 5090 finished on, well, it was kind of the 2nd of October it finished, because that's 5090. It's basically 5090, which is where you write 50 songs in the 90 days between July the 4th and October the 1st, finishes when it's no longer October the 1st anywhere on the planet. So that's kind of October the 2nd, really. And I decided that I wanted to beat my record, because the most I've ever done for cover versions on 5090 in Rocktober. So when 5090 finishes, Rocktober is the following month. All the people who've done 5090 basically kick back and just do their versions of other people's songs. So it's cover versions city. And there are lots of them. In fact, there are currently 2 pages of Rocktober songs, which is quite a few. But I did Lay Your Hands on Me by Peter Gabriel, because I played you a while ago when we did the Fairlight thing, and I said I'd found Peter's original Fairlight samples. Well, I wasn't going to pass the opportunity up to use that, so I've done Lay Your Hands on Me. I also did a They Might Be Giants song from one of their children's albums, which is called Why, and the song is called Oh You Did, which is sung by Robin Goldie Goldwasser, who is married to John Flansburgh. Goldie Goldwasser is the vocalist on the Dr. Evil theme in the Austin Powers movie. You know, the evil is his one and only name. Well, that's Robin Goldie Goldwasser, and the people doing that track are They Might Be Giants. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, I've never heard of They Might Be Giants song, yes, you have. And they also did the theme tune for Malcolm in the Middle. So You're Not the Boss of Me Now is one of theirs as well. As is Birdhouse in Your Soul, as is Minimum Wage, which is pretty much the entire song, and countless others. And I'm a huge They Might Be Giants fan, which is why I was wearing a They Might Be Giants Road Crew hoodie on Sunday night show. But again, that's too hot to be wearing in here, so I've just got the black t-shirt on today. So very busy. But and the third track that I did in the last couple of days is The Steps, which is a Steve Hackett instrumental, lots and lots of very, very gorgeous guitar on the original, from 1980, from his album Defector. And when that album came out, I had just started to play electric guitar. In fact, it was this electric guitar. This is the first electric I ever bought. It's an Aria Strat copy. It's been very heavily modified. It's got one of the very first sort of cheaper than 300 quid, which would have been double what I paid for the guitar, locking tremolo system on it, which was fitted by a lovely chap called Roger Giffin, who works, or at least worked, in a workshop under the arches at Kew Bridge. It's got a Schaller Super Golden 50 and a hot rail pickup in it, so it's loud, and I've pretty much worn it out. The saddles on this locking trem have honking big grooves in them, and the frets equally have big dents for each string. So it is not one that I play very often these days, but I did play it on form this year, because February album writing month, one of the projects that I did this year was I recorded one track, or at least one track, with every guitar in my collection that you can see here and here. But I have great fun during Rocktober, and Ryako Music says, do you remember when we recorded Hyperdrive together, which is a Devon Townsend song that appears both on Ziltoid the Omniscient, which is his musical about an alien who comes to Earth in search of the universe's finest coffee. And it also appears on perhaps the finest Devin Townsend Project album, and that's my theory, and fight me if you disagree, Addicted! Which is an astonishing album. There is not a weak track on that entire album, and Hyperdrive is one of my favourite songs. And I had to be Devin and actually tuned one of the Fender Telecasters down there into open C tuning, which is what Devin uses. And as soon as I did that, I was like, oh, that's how you do it. And also found I could play all of the tracks on Led Zeppelin 3. So a lot of the complicated stuff on Led Zeppelin 3, if you put your guitar in open C tuning, turns out all you need is one finger. It's like, that's how it works. Rev Motion says, I'm all about Epic Loud, although Addicted is the closest. Epic Loud is damn good. I have to say, for me, it's very, 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 very slightly edged into third place by Key. And because Key's got Gatto on it and Key's got Coast on it, and Dev is actually still playing Gatto and Coast in his current set. And the new album, recorded at the Roundhouse in London on December the 12th last year, before all the COVID madness happened, is glorious. Do get yourself a copy of it. I've got because of course, Devin Townsend Obsessive, I got the super duper deluxe version, which came with a coaster and a postcard and various other stuff. And there's a DVD and there's a Blu-ray and there's 2 CDs. And it's amazing. And I'm not saying that purely because 2 of my friends on Facebook are actually in the band, but they were. So, yeah. I basically had to be Devin, and Riako was Annika van Giersbergen, and she did a much better version of Annika van Giersbergen than I did of Devin, because Devin has an amazing voice, and as you may have noticed if you've heard me try to sing, I don't. Riako Music says, OMG, you just name dropped. Ah, yes, but I didn't actually say who. But, yeah. Hey, come on, if you've got it, flaunt it. And even if you haven't, fake it till you make it. That's kind of why I'm doing this. So, cheers. But yeah, so we did Hyperdrive one year. I seem to remember we also did... I did ER one year as well. Or did we do ER? I'm sure we did. But yeah, anyway. Long story short, I had a lovely time doing 3 more tracks. So I've now done 4 tracks for October this year, which is one more than I've ever managed. And there's still tomorrow and Saturday left. So I might have a go at doing something else. Okay, we only did Hyperdrive, Mel says, so it must have been I did ER on my own, but it's probably best left buried in the 5090 archives rather than being resurrected. But in case you're wondering why I'm waffling about all this rather than playing it to you, this is the problem that we have in terms of copyright with cover versions, that Twitch only allow cover versions on channels on Twitch if you are performing them live. So it doesn't matter if you've performed them. If you're not doing it there and then on the spot, then it's frowned upon and the video will probably get taken down. So it's not worth the hassle of doing it, which is a shame. But all I can say is that you are very welcome to give them a listen. Please, if you're feeling generous, give me a comment. So it's 5090.formers.org/Rocktober songs. And I put mine up 4 hours ago and it's still a song. Nobody's commented on it yet. But I'm sure somebody will. So I've got a few comments for the other one. In fact, I'm doing all right for the other ones. There have been, I have to say, some stonking covers. There is a version of Golden Brown that Gordon and Peter did, which is absolutely astonishing. So it's Sapient and Dirtbag doing the Stranglers' Golden Brown, but it goes full on metal and is hilarious. Stefan also did a rather splendid little guitar-only cover version of Porcupine Tree's Sentimental from Anesthetize, or Fear of a Blank Planet, or what, I can't even remember what the damn album's called. That's terrible. It's one of my favourite albums. In fact, I was thinking of doing Fear of a Blank Planet as a cover version, but it's 7 minutes long, and to be honest, I think I could do with the rest. So I'll do something silly. I'll do something short, I think. Rev Emotions, who is a master of knowing these things, says Fear of a Blank Planet is the album title. Thank you very much, sir. Anesthetize is the live performance Blu-ray, isn't it? That was performed at, or recorded at Tilburg. That's brilliant. I could listen to that album over and over and over again, and I have done. But I remember back in the day, and I commented on Stefan's song, I remember back in the day thinking, God, this is depressing. This is pessimistic as hell. And these days it's like, yeah, it's just life, which is terrible, but this is the situation that we're in these days, which sucks. But yeah, so go over and have a listen. Rev Motion says, I saw them live ages ago and quite glad I did. They've all gone on to other things now, haven't they? Because Stephen Wilson's basically being Stephen Wilson. Gavin Harrison is now 1/7 or 1/8 of King Crimson. Oh, wow. Rev Emotion says Anathema was the opening act. Did I hear correctly that, very sad news, that Anathema have decided to call it a day, which is very disappointing if true, and rather sad, because they were rather good. But this is the state we are in at the moment. The COVID is just wreaking havoc on the arts. I've been reading, as I mentioned on this stream before, David Byrne's book, How Music Works. And he dedicates an entire chapter to the value that learning the arts, learning creativity, learning music bring to society, and the reduction in the feeling of powerlessness by kids who would then resort to violence or crime to mitigate that powerlessness, instead create and make music. And where schools and local community outreaches work together to bring children and young adults into a creative environment where they can make stuff and realize that they do actually have the capacity to make things of value, the crime rate, David Byrne was saying, in some places in South America had dropped by 70%. Rev Motion says, no, I've got to look up now, and has obviously Googled, and it says, yep, Anathema is on indefinite hiatus, sad face. Ryaka Music says, I feel like COVID is wrecking the arts. It is. And sadly, our inept, corrupt, and totally useless government do not see any value in the arts, which is why Rishi Sunak recently suggested that if you were in a creative industry, you might want to think about retraining for another job. There was an out of context flurry on social media last week, the week before, about a 2018 advert which said that, showing a big picture of a ballerina and saying Fatima's next job is in cyber, she just doesn't know it yet. And just the sheer tone deafness of that advert, completely discounting just how bloody hard it is to be a ballerina, just raised my hackles, and it raised a lot of people's hackles as well. And they just do not care about the arts. Somebody once said to Churchill about whether they should cut funding for the arts to shore up the economy and the war effort, and Churchill's response was, "What the hell do you think we're fighting for?" And there's a slight difference in outlook there. Churchill, even if he spent most of the Second World War completely hammered, because the man drank like a fish, and even though he had some very, very questionable involvement in actions that the British government took prior to the Second World War, he got what the country should be about, and he was a statesman. Unfortunately, we've not got any statesmen in our current government. We just have a load of clowns. Churchill was drunk AF, says Ryako Music. He actually got a doctor's note that he took with him when he visited America during Prohibition. And the doctor's note said, effectively, Mr. Churchill is allowed to drink alcohol on my orders because of his medical condition. And that was his doctor had signed it. So even during Prohibition, Churchill could get absolutely hammered, and probably did. But God bless him. So, and if you've not watched The Crown and you've not seen John Lithgow's astonishing portrayal of Churchill, then go and check season 1 out, because Lithgow is just astonishing. Brilliant actor, as always. Well, he's Dr. Lizardo, isn't he? Ryako Music says 3 bottles of champagne a day. That's a lifestyle, isn't it? Wobby123 says his granddaughter too was a legend. I met her a few times, says Wobby. I'm not aware of this, mate. So who was his granddaughter? Or this is going to be somebody I go, oh, when you tell me who it is. But yeah, I'm not aware of that. But 3 bottles of champagne, yes, makes a martini before doing the stream seem a bit lame, really, doesn't it? Anyway, onwards. Other things. Thank you to Stream Pilots who have followed me on Twitch. Hello if you're watching. Hello if you're doing the archive. Bella Churchill, who founded a lot of the theatre and circus space at Glastonbury Festival. Okay. I was not aware of that. Glastonbury is other side of Bristol from me. There is now a field called Bella's Field. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's rather nice. That's Wobby says that. Yeah, what was I completely squirreled myself. I was just going to do something. Oh, I remember. Yes. I found out I could do something on Twitch this week, which I didn't know you could do. So bear with me a second. I'm just doing a bit of Yeah, oh, I see. Yeah, it's all right. I figured it out now. I thought I'd got extra viewers, but I haven't. It's literally just Lurks and Commander Root, which are, I believe, bots that run within Twitch that basically sort out. Wobby123 says she was a character in all caps. Wobby says, yeah, she booked me for the cabaret stage in 2003. Ha ha ha. I did not know that. Wow. I'm impressed. That's lovely. Anyway, yes, so hello to new viewer. Hello also to my mate Rich, who phoned me just after I did my last stream last week. In fact, no, it was before that. It was while I was pulling this place apart, and the phone rang. And my mate Rich is back home after a very, very nasty spell in hospital. And I'm very, very glad to hear from him and get a phone call from him, and B, know that he's back on his feet and back home. So, hi, Rich. You remember on Sunday, if you were watching on Sunday, and yeah, you guys were all watching on Sunday, I know this, I was talking about how the new layout means that I can stare out of the window, which is behind the camera. And I have news on the starling front. My record of 15 starlings on the aerial over there has been broken. In fact, I put some mealworms out for the starlings this week with some suet pellets, although the local black cat who lives over the road eats most of the suet pellets before the birds even get a chance. But I looked out this afternoon and there were between 60 and 70 starlings in the back garden, which is extraordinary. And it's the time of year they start gathering together in huge clouds called murmurations, and check out the videos on YouTube of starling murmurations because it's hypnotic. They look a bit like the spaceships in Arrival, all this sort of sinuous curving motion. And I kind of seem to have started collecting my own murmuration in the back garden, which is quite something, I'll tell you. It's the first time it happened, I'd got my back to the window and the window went dark. I was like, what the fuck was that? Turned round and the lawn was just covered in starlings. So cool AF, as the young kids say. I was just chuffed to bits because I was wondering, I used to have big invasive species Leylandi hedge in the back garden, and it was taking over the garden, and I had them ripped out because it was like, look, it's not supporting much in the terms of wildlife. It's not really doing anything much, and apart from anything else, it just makes the back garden dark. So I had it ripped out last year. The difference in the amount of wildlife and bird life that I get in the back garden now is astonishing. I found an elephant hawk moth caterpillar on the back lawn last summer. It was, I kid you not, it looked like a sausage. I had no idea what it was. Ryako Music says, are you still getting hedgehogs? Oh yeah. Yeah, the hedgehogs clear up the suet pellets and the mealworms if there are any left when it gets dark. But I had a magpie, a really, really large magpie, hoovering up what was left about 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'm really enjoying just watching stuff flying past the windows as I'm working on music. Again, going back to the cover versions and stuff that I've done over the last couple of days, I can hear stuff better. The whole psychoacoustics thing of having a big plane of fabric about yay high over my head really dampened or affected the way that stereo signals move in the room. And now that the monitors are actually on a proper monitor bridge rather than an Argos aluminium mesh metal shelf, the difference in the frequency response is quite something. And I hope that means that my mixes and mastering are going to be more accurate. And again, one of the things that I can now do, check this out. It's a bit hissy because I need to put the aerial in a decent place, but I've got radio. How cool is that? The old Denon amplifier that I bought myself 20 odd years ago, I couldn't bear putting it on free cycle because it was such a good amp. And I thought, oh, it's 19 inches rack mount wide. I wonder if it'd fit in the bridge here. And lo and behold, it does. So it means that I can also use, from the Mackie Studio controller, I can put the output from Ableton into a domestic hi-fi. And I've got a couple of Technics 5-inch and tweeter stuff, which are, well, they've been in the loft for the last 20 years. So I can hear what my stuff sounds like, not just on the KRK monitors, which are a bit enthusiastic, but also just on a domestic hi-fi. And it's really interesting how the balance of sound changes from one to another. And I've also got a pair of Altec Lansing desktop computer speakers, and there's a subwoofer under the desk with them. So I've got now the 3 separate speaker systems that the Mackie Big Knob Studio controller can output to, and I'm using them all and switching between them to sort of say, yeah, does that sound all right? Ryako Music says your mixes and mastering are already good. It's funny, there are certainly listening to them in here now, is that, ooh, like I said last Sunday, ooh, that's a bit harsh. And I think you will probably hear a difference in the music that I create now compared with the music that I was creating when the studio was under the bed. Ryako Music says, I wish I had more wildlife. I put out seeds and balls, but the birds don't want them. You have more slugs than most gardens do, I think. It has to be said. I don't get too many slugs here because the hedgehogs eat them all, which is good. Interesting news. I heard last week that the UK government has been finally strong-armed into making the sale of slug pellets illegal, which is about bloody time because cats eat them and get poisoned, hedgehogs eat them and get poisoned, other wildlife eats them and gets poisoned. They're nasty, nasty things. And yeah, just encourage hedgehogs in your back garden. They will dispose of your slugs for you without any environmental damage whatsoever, other than the hedgehog poo that I find in prodigiously large quantities in the back garden. I don't know whether it's the fact that they just really like mealworms and want to make room for more mealworms, but yeah, Ryaka Music says we don't have them here. Yeah, you're in the middle of a medieval city. It has to be said that the scope for hedgehog activities in somewhere like that is probably quite limited. So you have my sympathies, but you have birds and things, and you've got cats, and cats always, because cats. Wobby123 says ha ha ha. Array of Emotion says, even if we did, they'd have no way of getting in our little walled garden. Ryako Music says, should I get another pet? Do you need another pet? And what sort of pet are we talking about here? This is the question. my cats don't want slugs. Yeah, there is nothing worse than going into the back garden in bare feet and standing on a slug. Well, actually, there is going in the back garden and in bare feet and standing on half a slug. But a duck, that's an interesting choice as a pet, or something that likes slugs. I don't know of any domestic pets offhand that like slugs, especially as a food source. However, and this I think warrants a caption. Yes, I am that sad. I now have a caption for this. So, back in a past life, I was a lecturer at the University of West of England and did some work with a lovely chap who ran the Bristol Robotics Lab called Professor Farid Dailami. And Farid's team got a certain amount of notoriety in the 1990s because they designed, I'm not sure if it was a gardening robot or a robotic lawnmower. It was one or the other, but it powered itself by eating slugs. That was its power source. I kid you not. And you can still find stuff on the old archived BBC News website about this slug-eating robot that was developed by a team at the University of West of England. Absolutely mad as a box of frogs. Wonderful stuff. But, yeah, if you have slugs, you have my sympathies. So, birds. Martinis, we've already covered. I have a whole load of notes here from old stuff that I kind of more or less covered on Sunday's show. So I actually looked at what TN, which were my monitors downstairs, and IPS, which are the monitors here are. And the monitors up here are in-plane switching panels, hence why they are so much more vivid than the panels that I have downstairs, which are twisted pneumatic panels, which apparently react very, very quickly. So they're good for gaming, but they're not so good if you're actually doing stuff for print and you want your stuff to be colour accurate. So we're still getting discussions on what to get in the back garden. An Array of Emotion says we just need an army of crows. Ryako Music says a murder of crows. Yeah, crows, corvids in general. I think if you can get corvid, and you've got magpies where you are because I've seen them. You just want corvids. Corvids are the go-to source of entertainment if you have any form of bird life in your immediate neighbourhood. My mate Roz, who I've known, bless her, for nearly 40 years, now has ravens turning up on the windowsill because she has a fire. Living in San Francisco, she has a fire escape in the apartment building, and the ravens come onto the fire escape and stare through the window pointedly at her because they know that they can get cheese. And Ryako Music says, how do I get more crows in my garden? Cheese. That is the answer. Put maybe cheese on your windowsill or something. See if because your back garden's kind of enclosed, isn't it? I'm thinking you might need to move operations upstairs and put maybe a shelf or something on the back windowsill, or as Ryako Music says, like, do I make a free slugs sign? Wobby says cheese. Ryako Music says free cheese. In fact, she doesn't say free cheese. She says free cheese. And that will do the trick. And I know when Roz and her husband go for a walk in the local park, the ravens quite often hang out there. and they recognise them and they come over. So Ryako Music says, what kind of cheese? I'm thinking probably something. Ryako Music says, do they like brie? I'm thinking they probably need something a little harder than brie, because brie's going to get all over your beak. Let's face it, unless it's, you've not let it get runny, in which case, why would you eat it anyway? I'm thinking something like cheddar. Cheddar, nice bit of double Gloucester, maybe even something like that. Yeah, red Leicester. There are many cheeses to come from. Parmesan, yeah, who knows? Further research is required, I think. But corvids and cheese kind of really get on together. But here, dried mealworms are why I now have my own starling murmuration. They go mental for them and turn up en masse every time that I put them out. In fact, I think they now have lookouts posted on the gutters or the houses opposite, and it's like, Chris has just put some more stuff out. Get the mates round. It is astonishing how quickly stuff appears. And bird feeders. When I was a kid, you put a bird feeder in the back garden, it was full of peanuts. That was all the stuff that you had for putting in bird feeders back when I was a kid. And you get blue tits on it and maybe the occasional great tit, and that was it. Now I put like a seed mix in bird feeders, and I've got two bead feeders. I've got two bird feeders on a stand just outside the conservatory, and there are a total of 8 perches on those feeders, and for most of the day all 8 perches are occupied, and they're occupied by sparrows, which never used to use bird feeders. Sparrows lived in the old days by rich pickings from old style farming practices. Now modern agriculture hoovers everything up. There's nothing left for the sparrows to get on the fields afterwards. So they've had to resort to learning new tricks for getting food from other sources. And one of the sources is very definitely the bird feeders outside my conservatory window. So I'm getting through a 10-kilo bag of bird feed every month. And they really, really dig it. And it's great because I will now get 10 or 15 sparrows in the back garden, where 2-3 years ago it was really unusual to see more than a couple. So again, the wildlife in the back garden has really changed over the last 18 months, nearly 2 years since I had the hedge ripped out. So invasive species are nasty. They don't contribute anything to the environment where you are, because the local wildlife has not evolved to take advantage of them. So don't have them in your garden. Go for native species. It makes such a difference to the wildlife. That's my 2 penneth anyway. Ryako Music says, I'll put out some cheddar. That's a good start. Let's see what happens. But I wouldn't do it on ground level, because if you do that, you're probably going to attract rats. So I'm thinking windowsills somewhere up and out of the way that the rats can't get at. Just a thought. So where are we this week? Well, I suppose I ought to talk about music, because that's kind of the point of this stream. So, all right, yeah, I've done 15-16 minutes of music that is out there on the 5090 site. Please give it a listen. Tell me what you think of it. The Steve Hackett, I basically obsessively tried to make it as close to the original as I possibly can. As I said when I showed you the guitar earlier, it's one of those pieces of music that I used to play along to obsessively when I started learning the guitar and just had that aria strat. I thought I knew the piece. And when I put it together in Ableton, I found that it wasn't sounding right. And in fact, it was sounding, oh, what's happened here? My drum programming's not that rubbish. Why is it not sounding like the record? And eventually I just sat down and counted through on the sections where my drum programming was going out. And it's like, sneaky bastards. Every so often in the track, it drops from 4/4 to 3/4 and then goes back the following bar to 4/4. And it's just that drop beat that was throwing me out. And it was also why I was going, oh, not on time playing this. What's going on? As soon as I changed the time signature, worked fine. The Peter Gabriel track, I have the Fairlight sample that was the, if you like, the bones of the track, and I've kept that, but the main musical arrangement I've used Spitfire Audio, which is again still a massive obsession of mine. But I've also now returned to working on my concept album that I've mentioned a few times, The Geometry of Sleep. Remember that one? So I was saying how the last couple of tracks that I've done really showed up the earlier tracks, and so I've been taking a step back saying, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to just junk the early tracks and just build it sort of backwards and reverse engineer it from the new tracks that I've done? Or am I going to kind of fudge or rehash or edit or do something that will make the old stuff sound good enough to stand up against the new stuff? And I haven't really decided which way I'm going to go with it yet. So while I've been thinking about that, I've been noodling, and part of my noodling involves this track, which I've been using a couple of my favourite VST synths, the Arturia Casio CZ101 emulation, the CZV, which is astonishing for bass, and the good old behemoth of the synthesizer world, the Yamaha CS80, as emulated by Arturia, a synthesizer that weighed more than 200 pounds, and yet bands like Toto used to go on tour with them with multiple copies of these, and they are so notoriously unreliable that Vangelis was rumoured at one point to have 8 Yamaha CS80s in it. So I put together a little loop, and I'll just play you the loop now, if everything's now working as it should do within OBS. Let's see if you get any sound with this. So just a bit of Wobby says, "Yup, yeah." The level meters on on OBS pretty much buried the needle in the red for that. So I've turned things down rather a bit to make sure that I don't deafen you again. So I use the Arturia V collection a lot, and I've got other synthesizers, as they say on the television, other synthesizer emulations are available. And that led me to realizing that when I bought the Complete Audio 6 Mark II audio interface recently, after my Focusrite disintegrated or kept on blue screen of deathing, where it was a Mark I and it was the best part of 10 years old, I suddenly realised that I'd got a whole suite of stuff free from Native Instruments when I registered the Complete Audio 6 interface that I'd never used. And one of the things that I'd never used is Reactor. And it's not something that I've played with very much, but I realised when I read finally the documentation on what I'd got when I bought the Complete Audio 6 that I'd got quite a few instruments available as free plugins that sit inside Reactor. And one of those is this, which is Monarch, which is a monophonic synthesizer. And before I started the stream tonight, I was just noodling around with this. And it's got some lovely, albeit monophonic, it's got some lovely sounds to it, which again are very, very loud. Shall we just turn that down a tad? So really nice pulse width modulation on that. There are humongous numbers of presets available, which I've only really been noodling around with the bass so far, but the lead sounds, let's what the lead sounds like. Oh, it's BBC 1970s science music. So, I mean, yeah, there's everything from 1970s science music to acid house to... That's quite proggy. So I hadn't realised just how much stuff I'd been given when I bought Reactor. For instance, there are things called ensembles, and that's not what it was doing. That was... Why is it not registered? It was registered. Oh, God. There are times when I do really think that this stream is cursed. So I'm not entirely sure why Monarch is now saying, or even Reactor is saying, you are in demo mode. Because why am I getting annoyed? Well, if I go to Native Access, which has just triggered Windows copyright protection, if I open it and it says installed products, so these are all my installed products. There you go. I have a full version of Monarch installed. So right. So I've got Reactor 6 player. I don't know. It really does annoy me that some of these things you think, well, it says full version. Why are you now flagging up the fact that it's not a full version? Or do I need to play it in a different way? Who knows? I've been using computer generated music for the best part of 25 years now. And if I'm struggling with figuring out what's going on, either A, I'm getting old and senile, which is not implausible, or B, some of these software companies really need to get their act together. But anyway, so yeah, I've been noodling. Ryako Music says, I love some of these sounds. There are some really nice fat synth sounds in it. Maybe I will find a way of installing Reactor without having, or with using Monarch without having to use Reactor. But if there is a way of doing that, I have not figured it out at the moment. Ryako Music says, dude, you're not getting old and senile. Thank you, that's very kind. There are times when I hit things like this, or indeed like the fiasco with the webcams in here earlier, and I just think, why even bother? So yeah, I mean, in terms of the old Chinese webcam that I was using that had just decided that it was going to provide the audio for the entire stream this evening, that has been disposed of. So I've replaced it with, this is the webcam that I originally had pointing at the synths that was just hooked on the frame of my bed when I had the studio under the bed. And I plugged it in, and can I get it to work? It's, I would have thought, supposed to have a USB connection. It's plugged into one of my many USB hubs, but not a sausage. Completely dead. No light, nothing. So after I've finished the stream this evening, I will go and have a play and see if I can figure out what on earth is going on with my rig, because I can understand this happening if this was the first stream that I'd done from this desk. But as you well know, because you guys were all there, I did a stream on Sunday and it all worked. So why is it not working now? It does my head in. So yes, I am beginning to think that this stream really is cursed. But one thing I will say in terms of gear that I have acquired since the last studio rig is a couple of things called magic arms, and I don't know if you can see it very well with the zoom, but the zoom is using one. So it's a little arm with a single switch on it, and you basically spin the little switch, and it means you can reposition the camera instantly and then lock it off in the new position. Ryako Music says, when are you getting your fancy keyboard? Well, there's the thing. I think since Guy Mitchellmore raved about it on his YouTube channel a couple of months ago, they're like rocking horse poo. In other words, you cannot find them. So I got an update this week, and certainly the company that I bought mine from, and they charged me 30 quid less than the closest competitor in terms of price. But I've had a look around all the retailers. None of them are expecting stock before the end of November. So my shelf is going to be empty for, you see, keyboard shelf, rather nice. So yeah, it's going to be getting on for Christmas before I get mine. But that's okay, because Riaka Music says, "Oh no, sorry. No, it's not a problem. It will make me appreciate it a lot more when it arrives, and it also means that I've got time to bed the studio in so that I've got everything exactly the way I want it. Then I can just slot it in with the shelf." And to that end, next update is that on Sunday I'm getting some furniture delivered in here. So that will be remember we were talking about this on Sunday, Mel, my acoustic room treatment, which is actually going to consist of a couple of sets of bookshelves. So what that means is that after tonight's stream, for the next 2-3 days, guess what my task is? It's not going to be fun, but what I'm going to have to do is empty all that and basically remove that set of shelves. Fun, eh? So yes, all those shelves have to be emptied, and then I'll move the shelves out of the way, and then on Sunday it will be getting the old Allen key out and spending a happy afternoon assembling some IKEA furniture. Hooray for IKEA. Their stuff might be eccentrically named, usually after places or geographical features in Sweden, but it's built like tanks. If you've ever owned a Billy bookcase or two, you'll know exactly what I mean. De Fristo says, press F for the shelves. Yeah. But, those shelves have got a bit of a lean on them. I don't know how much of that you can actually see, and they are very seriously overloaded as it is, and they are being supported by, back in the day, Terence Conran, or Sir Terence Conran, who passed away recently, had a furniture shop which was great for buying cheap furniture that did the job that it was supposed to do. A furniture chain called Habitat, and one of the things that Habitat used to sell were these plastic storage cubes that came in either black or white, and I bought nearly a dozen of them, and most of them are supporting those shelves at the moment, and the one on the end has actually started bowing outwards, so I'm thinking, I think it's about time I replaced that. So they are probably all going to be redistributed around the house in God knows where, because as if I have space for cubic foot storage containers, but I will find space for them, and the shelves will be going there out of the way. But yeah, this place will kind of double as my library, so the shelf behind me is basically going to have all my science fiction paperback collection stuck in it, apart from the ones that are already in that set of shelves, and will of course be stored in order by author alphabetically, because I'm a nerd and that's what I do. Riaka Music says lol. Yeah, it's so. Yeah, the furniture side of the studio refit happens on Sunday. Well, hopefully Sunday afternoon, because I'm streaming at 9:00. Maybe a little shambolic in here if I'm doing the Is It Form show. Is It Form Yet show number? Is it 4 or 5 on Sunday at 9 p.m. And I will be doing it at some point. And yeah, we'll see how it goes, but at the moment I haven't anywhere to put my lava lamp. At least nowhere where, me being me, I would not immediately knock it over so that it smashed all over the floor and spill oil everywhere, because we do not want to go down that scenario. So I'm hoping the shelves will allow me some storage space for at least one piece of eccentric mood lighting, and quite possibly my Godzilla humidifier, because doesn't everybody have a Godzilla humidifier? Ryaka Music says, I'm spending my weekend eating Rice Krispies treats. Now, that's my kind of weekend. And watching scary movies. Yeah, I have been saving Nick Cage's apparently overacting extravaganza, Colour Out of Space, which I'm going to watch on Saturday night while I'm waiting for trick-or-treaters, in my cosplay and probably melting. I must remember to stay hydrated, probably with martinis, I think. So that's the plan. So I should be streaming on Sunday. If not, I will appear and show you what's happening, and if it's a shambles in here, it's a shambles in here. But one thing I will promise to do between now and then is actually come up with more than 16 bars of synthesizer music to play you, because the music side has been a bit thin on the ground on these streams, it has to be said, since I've been doing the studio refit. But my goodness me, I mean, just looking at the feed on OBS that you guys can see, the difference in here is astonishing. And you know, just having the room, it's just glorious being in a room that is now entirely dedicated to making music. And I'll be in here a lot, I think, over the winter. Ryako Music says, you've been working a lot. Yeah, I'm beginning to feel it a bit. So I've been in quite a lot of discomfort with the kidney problems over the last week or so. And I think that's a sign that I really need to just ease off a bit, maybe just get more exercise. So I've got a new tracker. My tracker died. It just stopped tracking me, which was rather irritating. And this one does all sorts of fancy things that the last one didn't do, including measuring my heart rate, which is, or 9 minutes ago was 87. So I'm probably running on adrenaline doing the show at the moment. But I was pleasantly surprised that my resting heart rate is round about sort of 60, 65, which is not bad for a bloke my age. I bet it used to be a lot worse than that. Ryako Music says, use your phone. Well, it does actually. Where did I put my phone? I did have my phone in here somewhere, but yeah, the phone app that I use talks to my watch, and my watch talks to my phone, so they conspire against me when I put on weight, as I may be doing if I start developing a martini habit. So I've got to be careful about that. But Sunday could be as shambolic as these shows normally get. Ryako Music says, I think my resting heart rate is in the 80s. Mate, when I was doing Tai Chi, my resting heart rate was between 45 and 55. And that used to seriously freak out my girlfriend at the time, who just couldn't understand what was going on. Ryako Music says, I always had a fast heart. Well, there you go. But just remember, you only have so many heartbeats allocated to you. So the idea is keep them low. Keep them low. But with that, I think I've come to the end of a rather frantic, rather chaotic, rather unorganized and cursed web stream, live stream, music free stream yet again. So I apologize for the fact that there's been hardly any music. I will get my act together with these things, and I'm beginning to wonder, because of how all of these cheap Chinese cameras identify themselves to Windows, they all identify themselves just with the name USB camera. And I had, when I started earlier, at least 2 cameras, both claiming to be USB camera. So I'm kind of wondering whether they're actually fighting each other for access to that name. And if I hack the registry and change this one's name to something else, it may actually resurrect it. But at the moment, it's not even lighting up, which is worrying me, because, I mean, when did I buy this one? It wasn't all this long ago, was it? It was 2-3 months ago. Wobby123 says, yes, I was going to say you need to spread them out in the hubs. They are actually, well, I mean, there's one camera in the hub on that side, and there's 3 on this side. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe, that's what I did. So I moved this camera from that hub to that hub. So there's 1 camera on that hub and 3 on that hub. So maybe if I move that camera back to there, I think you can see what I'm going to be doing for the next hour, can't you? So with that, I will bid you good night. Thank you for putting up with the shambles. Thank you for sticking around and keeping me company after it all went completely pear-shaped. And I will endeavour to be more technologically primed on Sunday night's show. And so wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're with, wear a damn mask and look after each other, look after yourselves, stay well, stay sane and stay safe. And I will see you, hopefully, with some new shelves and quite possibly books in them on Sunday night. So until then, till Sunday, have a good Halloween, enjoy your cosplay, eat lots of Haribo. That's what I'm going to be doing. And I'll see you on Sunday.